All right. Yeah. Katie, training.
Yep, that's yours as well.
Did you find it? On the Facebook event page? Yeah. I posted it earlier today. It should be the last post on that page. Okay.
We're going to go ahead and get this started. I want to thank all of you for making it out on this nasty, rainy day. I want to thank Jill Stein. I want to thank Elson McCown and Jonathan McFarland. We are going to go ahead and start this, and if people can go ahead and silence their phones and all of those things that they ask you to do at the movie theater will ask you to do now. My name is Katie Gore, and I am the chairperson for the Missouri Green Party, the newly formed Missouri Green Party. I want to begin by thanking the coordinators of the Ballot Access Initiative in Missouri for all of their hard work to expand democracy in Missouri and in the United States. They're currently working on an initiative to get the Green Party on the ballot in Missouri, and we are madly collecting signatures. You guys probably saw sign-up sheets when you came in for the petition, and anybody who has any extra time to collect signatures, we need your help to accomplish our goals. So you can see one of these fine gentlemen who will talk in just a moment to see how you can join that initiative. There are two elements at the root of democracy: collaboration and cooperation. They, along with an informed and involved electorate, are vital to the success of a democratic society. I am happy to announce to you the recent merger of the Progressive Party of Missouri and the Missouri Green Party. This merger will strengthen the progressive movement in Missouri and allow both groups to become stronger, thus increasing their ability to affect change. We in the Missouri Green Party look forward to working on a variety of projects with the former Progressive Party of Missouri, and we are certain of a long-lasting and impactful partnership. This is an example of the collaboration and cooperation that is needed to unite people across the United States. Is it possible for the various political factions within our nation to agree on everything? No. It is possible, however, to communicate openly and to work toward the common goal of ensuring the opportunity of freedom and peace be extended to all people. We have the good fortune of being the most easily informed population in history due to advances in our technology. And it is therefore our responsibility to demand integrity and a profoundly moral vision from our governing body. This demand must be met without fear and with diligence to see our collective moral vision realized. Our movement forward as a nation will be as powerful as our courage, and now is the time to vote your hopes and not your fears. Yeah. The changes we want will not happen by magic, and we can no longer simply request that our elected representatives implement those changes. We can no longer tolerate elected officials who behave as if their needs and the needs of the elite supersede those of the American electorate. We, the people, can no longer afford to pay representatives who do not accurately represent us. We have the power to take back our government from the local held offices of alderperson up to the office of the President of the United States. You have the power to change the path of our city, state, and our nation. So I implore you, become involved, petition, call your elected officials, run for office, vote, and vote wisely. Together, we will make the United States the pillar of freedom it needs to be. Thank you. I want to introduce to you my husband and a wonderful activist in St. Louis. His name is Jonathan McFarland. He is the director of the Black Lives Matter chapter of St. Louis. He is the regional coordinator for St. Louis City and County of the Ballot Access Initiative, and he is the director of his own organization, Stein Everywhere.
Thank you, Katie, very much. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Jill Stein for coming and visiting St. Louis, and I'd like to thank you all for showing up and allowing me to speak before you. The Black Lives Matter movement was started here in St. Louis. A people tired of being wronged by systemic oppression found reason and courage enough to stand up to the tyranny. These people are heroes. Black lives. Black Lives Matter is indeed an alarm, a resounding cry for those who before August 9, 2014 had no voice. They had no justice and had only the wounds of being disregarded by history, the present, and the foreseeable future. The events of August 9, 2014 molded the foreseeable future, and now our present is alive with hope and change. But we cannot rely on police killing black people or the apparent racism in our justice system to spur our action. We must advance to cast a farewell shadow on racism, both systemic and individual. Our schools are failing, both the public at large and the students who are citizens of the United States of America. In our city, tax breaks are given to profitable corporations and people who already have money. These monies are funneled away from our schools, causing schools to close because of lack of resources, which cause overcrowding, which causes poor performance, which causes schools to lose their accreditation, which causes schools to lose more resources. We must take a stand against this vicious cycle and help our children. No, guarantee our children get a quality education. And that is why I'm asking you to vote smart. Because we need to elect people who will not give these lopsided tax breaks. If we can do that, then we can demand reparations from these uncorrupted elected officials. That is why I support candidates like Dr. Jill Stein.
Good evening, everybody. You all hear me okay? All right. My name is Elston McCowan. I'm the ballot access team coordinator for the state of Missouri. All of our ballot access team people, would you raise your hand, please? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. All right. Give them a hand. Give them a hand. Give them a hand. All right. So you all want to give them a hand. Because over the last month or so, these folks have been going out in the rain, going out in the heat mostly, 90 degrees, 100-degree weather, collecting signatures throughout the entire state of Missouri. We have ballot access team coordinators, regional coordinators in Kansas and Licking, Missouri. The young fellow that's in Licking, Missouri, he's back there right now. Wave your hand, man. All right, that's Taylor Hall. Licking, Missouri. We have folks from southeast Missouri. The Wisemillers, raise your hand. All right, that's southeast Missouri. About our husband. We all love Jonathan. He's a regional coordinator. He's doing double duty. He's doing St. Louis City and St. Louis County. He's doing a wonderful job. Give him a hand. All working people. I see a number of our team out there working hard. So over the last month or so, we've collected a little over 4,000 signatures to get Jill Stein on the ballot for President of the United States of America. We also need 10,000. I'm going to let you all on a little secret. I've been telling everybody it's July 25th. We actually have one week longer than that, August the 1st. So in a little under 4 weeks, we need an additional 6,000. Now, I don't want to walk in there with 6,000 or 10,000 signatures and then eliminate some of them. So we need actually about 13,000 signatures altogether. So within the next 4 weeks, we need 10,000 signatures. Now, Jill has agreed to come to St. Louis. She's been to Kansas City. She's been to Kansas City, Kansas, and she's now in St. Louis. And her goal is to recruit some of us to get out here and sign some petitions and get our family members to sign petitions. Guess what happens? If each one of us took a petition and we had 20 to 50 people sign a petition as friends of ours and turn those in, we'll reach our goal. How about that? How about that? We can do it. I don't have to give a long speech. My job, I get to be the hype man. How about that? You know, in one of my other lives, I pastor Star Grace Church. I just preached this morning. I really did good too, thank God. But I don't have to do that this year. I have to give a long speech. I get to be the hype man. I get to introduce somebody who has been championing our issues for a long time, and she's been doing it very vigorously, and she's been doing it very successfully. She's fought folks who wanted to build incinerators in poor communities. That's important. When I talk to people about the Missouri Green Party, they ask me, what is it? I tell them we're an environmental social justice organization. So while you're sleeping, Jill Stein is out fighting for you to make sure your air is clean, make sure your water is clean, make sure your forests are clean, and make sure that they're not destroying our planet. How about that? Right. Somebody has to do that. Somebody has to do it. And she's not doing that. She's not doing that. I could go on and on about all the numerous awards she has won. But it is a pleasure to know and meet someone who fights so hard and fights so vigorously. And actually, all the stuff, and I don't want to put anybody down, I'm not talking about anybody, but all the stuff that Bernie's talking about, wonderful. We're glad about it. But I want you to know who he got it from. He got it from Jill Stein. I've been waiting for the platform for years. For years. Those have been our platform for years. So, without further ado, what I want you to do, when I say who do we want, you say Jill Stein. And when I say when do you want them, when do we want her, you say now. Let's see if I can get it. Who do we want? Jill Stein. When do we want her? Now. What do we want? Jill Stein. Who do we want? Now. What do we want? Jill Stein. Who do we want her? Now. What do we want? Jill Stein. Who do we want her? Now. Let's give her a hand and sit down.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Elson. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Katie. And thanks to all of you for this amazing moment where we are rising up strong, we are rising up unstoppable, and we are going to fight until we get an America and a world and a St. Louis that's working for all of us. Yeah. So, like Elton was saying, we've been fighting this battle for a while. I think most of you have. I suspect most of you are involved in this fight. Whether it's fighting to stop police brutality, whether it's fighting to set up that police review commission, this citizens review commission that you just helped lead the way on. Every community should have a citizen review board for their police. Because we need communities to be in charge of their police, not police to be in charge of our communities. I know some of you have been fighting the fight for 15. I know that's a big fight here. And yes, that fight is going on all across the nation. And we are winning that fight. Because working people are standing up and leading that fight. And we are fighting the fight for an environment that's healthy, not just for the planet, but which is healthy for the people. And that's the same thing, because when it is healthy for the planet, it's also healthy for the people. And there's a win-win in that. So it's been so exciting because people really have been coming out of the woodwork now, really standing up against this idea that we don't have power, or this idea that we just have to go along with business as usual, We saw Bernie's movement really stand up and just catalyze a whole new movement and a whole lot of momentum. And I want to just give a big thank you and a big welcome to all the Bernie folks who are here today. You were doing the Bernie flag. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for getting this started, and thank you for not giving up and going back into the graveyard of that counter-revolutionary party that saw fit to undermine a revolutionary campaign. Okay, there we go. The gentle touch. Perfect. All right. Sometimes you just go easy and better do it. Yeah, so what you guys got going, we are going to keep going.
Yeah.
Because, it was sort of like the emperor's new clothes. It was sort of like Bernie stood up, and he stood up inside the Democratic Party where he had a big megaphone to stand up. Because what he said, many of us have been saying for a while, and he said it inside the Democratic Party, which had a bad side, because they kind of nipped it in the bud here, but it had a good side. Because that good side was that he could reach a lot of people, and you could reach a lot of people, and now you've become this unstoppable movement for an economy that works for working people, for breaking up the big banks, for health care as a human right, for education that actually is provided for free, public higher education. And, it's like Bernie climbed the mountain, but the Democratic Party won't let him or you go to the promised land. So we're going to go to the promised land together. We are not going to be stopped. And I think, when we think about this propaganda that you got to vote your fears, which I'll talk a little bit more about, the answer to that is that we're not only voting our values, we're also voting our power. We do have the power. In the words of Alice Walker, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. But in fact, we do have the power. And it's not only that we have solutions to all of these critical problems that they tell us, oh, throw up your hands, we can't solve that. We just can't provide jobs and fix the climate crisis. They tell us we can't, but in fact the opposite is true. We can only fix them together by creating an emergency jobs program that actually fixes the emergency climate crisis. We can do that together. And in fact, we can do that together, and we can create 20 million jobs right now that solve the climate crisis, that zero out fossil fuels and nuclear too, because as you know, there's kind of a fire, I hear, around here, that's kind of moving towards that nuclear waste stuff, That's the thing. Nuclear waste doesn't go away, It will be here for at least 100,000 years. So, that's longer than human civilization has been around. So, pretty hard to keep track of inherently. So, we cannot continue to expand nuclear energy. We cannot continue to allow nuclear energy. And we can phase out to zero. This isn't like general, gradual. This is by 2030. We want 100% clean, renewable energy, no fossil fuel, no nuclear by 2030. And that means we put an immediate ban on all new fossil fuel infrastructure, all new nuclear infrastructure. No new fracking, no new offshore oil, no new fossil fuel extraction on public land, no exploration of the Arctic, no new offshore oil in the Gulf. Instead, we want clean, renewable jobs right now in wind, in sun, and water. 100%, we can do that.
Yes.
And
No
they will.
mass graves.
What's that?
No new mass graves.
Yes, no new mass graves, no new fracking pipelines, and no new pipelines of any sort. When people say, oh, aren't you afraid of Donald Trump? I say, no, I'm afraid of climate change, thank you very much. And the Democrats are not solving climate change. They are digging those mass graves of these new fracking pipelines that they wrapped around the world. It turned out this program from the Democratic White House, this program called All of the Above, that meant renewables and fossil fuels. Well, actually, it turned out to be this much renewable and that much fossil fuel. So it totally took the lid off of fossil fuel production. And if you're following the numbers on this, what you see now is that, in fact, we are accelerating towards climate catastrophe. That the rate of increase, our carbon in the atmosphere is not decreasing, it's increasing, and it's increasing at a rate which is growing year by year. And that's not only true for carbon dioxide, it's also true for methane, which is like the super carbon dioxide that is 100 times more powerful over a matter of 2 decades than even carbon dioxide. So, that's kind of maybe a little in the weeds here, but the point is the Democrats are not solving this. They may give it lip service, but they have been every bit as destructive, I think arguably even more destructive than the Republicans were, because when the Republicans do stuff, we stand up and we fight. But when the Democrats do stuff, we're told to be quiet. So we are not going to be quiet anymore. So, we gotta do this, right? I mean, we don't have a choice. We gotta do this or we're gone. And we could be gone under the current paradigm. It could wrap up around 2050. Anybody plan to be here in 2050? I would think many people plan to be. I plan to be here in 2050. Thank you very much. So, I think most of you should be here in 2050. And the latest science that came out of NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, not like a really radical scientific think tank. No, this is not like a radical grassroots organization. This is sort of like the core of the American Scientific Institution. But one of their senior scientists came to this conference of insurance companies, because you can imagine why insurance companies might be thinking about this. And like the only place this got written up was in an online journal, I think, called insurancecompany.com, that I'm sure all of you read, right? So the press is not anxious to talk about this. So it was like printed in 1 or 2 places. So most people haven't heard about this. But this was actually news like 3 weeks ago, that the senior scientist from NOAA said at this conference where she was like speaking, that they had just received what she called an oh my God report from the Antarctic, where we got a lot of water trapped in the form of ice sheets. And what that oh my God report was, that they're actually breaking up way faster than anybody would have dreamed in their worst nightmare, and that on the course we're on, unless we have a dramatic change of direction, we are looking at 9 feet of sea level rise as soon as 2050. 9 feet of sea level rise means goodbye Manhattan, it's goodbye Florida, it's goodbye Washington, D.C., it's goodbye lots of coastal cities that happen to be at sea level. It's goodbye to most population centers around the world that are on the coast, which is where a lot of people live. Right now, the world has 65 million refugees, mostly from wars for oil being led by, guess who? 65 million refugees. Well, if we allow sea level to go ahead and rise the way it's heading, we won't have 65 million refugees, which, needless to say, we can't handle. I mean, this is a human rights catastrophe, tearing apart the Middle East, tearing apart the EU. We won't have 65 million. We're going to have at least 600 million refugees just trying to get away from these floodwaters, not to mention dozens of nuclear power plants at sea level that will all go Fukushima. So this is why we're not going to go there. We're not going to allow that to happen. And if we want to stop that from happening, that means that our guideline in this election is not fear of Donald Trump, and it's not fear of Hillary Clinton, who there's also very good reason to be afraid of. This is about our determination. This is about our deciding. In this election, we are not just deciding what kind of a world we're going to be, but whether we are going to be a world or not at all. And that's both on the issue of climate change. It's also on the issue of nuclear weapons. And who is it that took the lid off of this new nuclear arms race? You may recall it's the Democrats that actually created this new $1 trillion program to provide a whole new generation of nuclear weapons and modes of delivery, missiles and submarines and bombers, to deliver new nuclear weapons. It'll cost us $1 trillion, which we cannot afford over the next couple of decades. But this has basically created a whole new nuclear arms race, which we will not have. We cannot have. And we are saying no to, by saying no not only to Donald Trump, but saying no to Hillary Clinton and the Democrats who are behind the new nuclear arms race. And the other way that we are deciding whether we will have a world or not is by deciding whether we continue to have these massive expanding wars. Because these wars, since the Twin Towers went down in 2001, have cost us, according to a recent Harvard study, also not one of your most radical grassroots institutions, they've cost us $6 trillion when you include the cost of caring for all the wounded veterans. $6 trillion divided among every American household. Anybody know what that comes to?
75,000.
Thank you. $75,000 per American household. Did somebody plant you? Thank you very much. $75,000 per American household. Do you think you got your money's worth on this? Hardly. What did we get? We got failed states, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Somalia, a few more.
$2.20 a gallon.
What's that, $2.20 a gallon? Yeah, that's what we got. Right, that's about it, what we got. And that price is going down. But in the meantime, we got failed states, mass refugee migrations, and worse terrorist threats. Because even, what's his name? John Brennan, the head of the NSA, did anybody see this last week? What he said was, oh my God, it's not working. Imagine my surprise, ISIS is even worse than Al-Qaeda. And Al-Qaeda is even worse than the Taliban, which is even worse than the Mujahideen. But who created the Mujahideen and this global terrorist enterprise anyhow?
We did.
We did. We actually did. I mean, few people actually know this, but the history books will confirm this if you can actually find the history books that tell this story. But it was the U.S., CIA, and Saudi Arabia that created the jihadi terror movement in order to fight the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. And oh my goodness, it backfired. So that you created this very powerful mujahideen, you superpowered the Taliban, which, by the way, in spite of all that we've spent, the Taliban are far stronger today and control far more territory than they did, way back when, before these wars began. And the same is true for Al-Qaeda. In fact, we created Al-Qaeda. We trained the leadership of Al-Qaeda. And we also produced ISIS out of the chaos of Iraq. So the reality is, you cannot both fight terrorism while you are funding terrorism and arming terrorism and training terrorism. And that's what the U.S. and our allies have been doing. So it's not rocket science, that more of a catastrophic failed policy is not going to work. Which is, again, why we need to say no to these outrageous wars, this foreign policy based on military and economic domination, period, and based on weapons sales. Our foreign policy is basically a marketing strategy for the war profiteers. Well, we need to take our foreign policy back and make it an instrument of human rights, international law, and diplomacy, period. So that means no regime change. It means no wars for oil. It means no wars on terror. It means no subsidizing governments like the Netanyahu government, $8 million a day for the Israeli government to commit war crimes and human rights violations. It's not just Israel. Saudi Arabia. We just sold them like $90 billion worth of weapons over the last couple of years. And Saudi Arabia can distribute them to whoever they want. We need to stop being in the business of supporting governments like Saudi Arabia that are systematically violating human rights and committing war crimes, particularly in Yemen, where the U.S. is also playing a supporting role. We need to cease and desist from committing these violations ourselves of international law and just get down to a simple foreign policy based on international law and human rights. And we can do that with the Green New Deal because there is no justification, certainly not a moral justification and no practical justification, because we will have 100% of the renewable energy we need right here at home, and there is no justifying 1,000 bases scattered around the world in over 100 countries, mainly defending our access to other people's fossil fuels and their routes of transportation. So, I want to go back to this question of power. That it's not only about voting our values, it's really about voting our power. And again, to what Alice Walker said, we have that power. Our job is to just reject the propaganda that tells us that we don't have that power. Because that's what this lesser evilism is about. It's about pretending that we don't have the power. And if they can convince us that we're powerless, then we are hopeless, and then we don't stand up and actually use that power. But we can do that. And let me tell you very specifically how it is that we have that power. It turns out that there are 43 million young people and not so young people who are trapped in predatory student loan debt. Anybody know anybody who might be trapped in student loan debt? Yes, I think most people under 35 if they had the benefit of a college education, they are still trapped in student loan debt. And many who are quite a bit older than that, too. Because, there's a few just little catch-22s that you can't get out of it, especially in the economy that we have. Well, people will guilt trip you, right? They'll tell you, you signed that contract, what did you expect? Some free ride or something? Well, how about Wall Street? Didn't Wall Street also sign that contract? We were going to have an economy that provided us the jobs. So when you got out of that school, you had a good job and you were going to be able to pay those loans back. But those jobs are gone. Why? Because Wall Street crashed the economy with their waste, fraud, and abuse. If we could bail out, if the powers that be saw fit to bail out the crooks on Wall Street who crashed the economy to the tune of like $17 trillion when you include the free loans and the free money, it's about time that we bail out the victims of that waste, fraud, and abuse on Wall Street. So, 43 million people, it turns out, here's like maybe the best news of the day. 43 million people is a winning segment of a three-way vote in the presidential race. So, what does that mean? What that means is that we do have the power, just by getting the word out to fellow millennials and more in debt, that we have the power to come out on November 8th, 2016, just by voting green, which is the only campaign that will cancel that debt. You are looking at the one candidate that will do for millennials what the others did for the bankers. Just by coming out to vote green, your debt is as good as over and done. That's because it doesn't have to go through Congress. And how's that? It's because the president has the power of appointment over the chair of the Federal Reserve, and it's the Federal Reserve that can decide to extend the courtesy of that bailout to our young people who most deserve it more than anyone. So, there is your campaign. It is really a very complete package, because it's not only about liberating young people and about repatriating them back into society, because they're missing in action. They're working 2 and 3 part-time, temporary, low-wage jobs, and they don't have a whole lot of time to actually participate in fixing our crisis. But it turns out our crisis has always relied throughout history on the younger generation to lead the charge in the civil rights movement, in bringing the troops home from Vietnam, in the women's movement, in the Black Lives Matter movement, in the fight against sweatshops, in the fight for climate justice and against climate racism and environmental racism. It's always young people who are leading the charge. So this is something we have to do, not just for the younger generation, but for all of us, in order to be a society that can move forward into the 21st century and transform the crises that we're facing. We need to liberate our young people to lead the charge. So, don't feel like you need to keep that a secret. Just by getting the word out, and of course nobody is better positioned to self-mobilize than millennials on social media. This is how we organize for lots of stuff, including stopping the Keystone Pipeline, or really promoting and spreading the Black Lives Matter campaign. This is happening on social media. It's also happening person to person, but social media has been a really powerful tool. We actually stopped, if you can remember, back in 2013, we stopped the first bombing campaign of Syria when they told us resistance is futile. They told us, don't even bother, we're going to bomb Syria. That's what Obama was saying. And we said, what? That's crazy. And he was actually stopped. He was forced to bring it to Congress, and then they were forced to not even let Congress vote on it because it was going to be so humiliating. Because we got up. We got up and we stood up. And we said, not in our name, not know how, we are not going to bomb Syria. So we can actually set the course. We can chart our course. We can use our power, and especially on this issue of student debt, where we have so many people and where we have the plurality of the vote. 43 million young people in debt. If everybody brings out one family member to vote green, we have 86 million green votes in this election, potentially. And that's not such a far-fetched idea. Because what are we hearing from the press right now? We're hearing that we have never seen two candidates that are so disliked and distrusted by the American public. Even their own supporters don't really support them. I don't know if you saw this poll. This is actually true. In a CNN poll about 2 weeks ago, what they found was the majority of Hillary's supporters don't actually support Hillary, they simply oppose Donald Trump. And the majority of Donald Trump's supporters don't support him, they just oppose Hillary Clinton. And then you have the vast majority of people that are clamoring for another choice with integrity that hasn't been bought and paid for by Wall Street. So what are they looking for? They're looking for us. So when people say to you, well, aren't you going to split the vote? The answer to that is no, we're not going to split the vote. We're going to flip the vote. So the underdog is going to be the top dog. And that means all of us. You can't do that. You should do that. Let me say a couple more words. This is possible. This is possible. This is not just pie in the sky. The press is always saying to me, well, last time you got, 500,000 votes. What makes you think, you're going to do anything better than that? To which the answer is, well, last time we were way ahead of the curve. Now the curve has caught up to us, and this is actually what people are demanding. This isn't just about our campaign. This is about what the American people are actually clamoring for. So, we got to stand up to that nonsense that wants to tell us we're powerless, because frankly, they're very afraid of what we have the power to do. That's where they're coming from. They have the politics of fear, really, and they're quaking in their boots. The first time I was tricked into running for office, which was in 2002, ancient history, I got tricked by the Green Party, which I knew, really, all I knew was that they weren't the Democratic or Republican Party, so that had to be a good thing. So they said to me, and at the time I was fighting to close down incinerators and clean up landfills and to create jobs in clean renewable energy and not in, the toxic stuff that makes us sick. We actually passed a referendum, I couldn't believe it, in 26 communities in my state saying, would you like to just shift the subsidies and let's create a Green New Deal here in Massachusetts? And we didn't have any money to put behind that, so we thought, wow, if we got 10 or 15%, that would be really great. We got 85 to 90% in all communities. They just read the referendum and said, that's a no-brainer. Of course. And our agenda really is a no-brainer. When I was running back in 2002, we fought our way into a debate, a televised gubernatorial debate. I was running against Mitt Romney, and even back then, people were tearing their hair out at this new form of torture called televised debate. And we were able to fight our way in and actually get into the debate. And inside this TV studio, there was no live audience, just the candidates and the moderator. I, said our usual Green Party agenda, green jobs, right to a job, right to higher education, teach to the whole student for lifetime learning, not to a high-stakes test, for example. Plain old common sense like that. Fund our schools, adequately fund our schools, cut the military so we can fund our schools, healthcare and human rights, just a few basic things like that. Inside this little TV studio, it went over like a lead balloon, but when we walked out from the TV studio to where the press was waiting, I got mobbed by the press for the first time and the last time, and what they said to me totally changed my worldview. They said to me, "You won the debate on the instant online viewer poll." And who would have imagined they were doing an instant online viewer poll? You can be sure they haven't done another one since in a live debate. Because we the people are winning these debates. They are not. They are losing the debates. And you may not know this. Not only do they rig who gets into the debate based on their own rules, and this is what the Commission on Presidential Debates do. It's actually a fancy name for a private corporation run by the Democratic and Republican parties whose purpose is to suppress political opposition. So they not only control who can get into the debate by setting a very arbitrary high standard, a very arbitrary high level. It's kind of a catch-22. You can't get into the debate until people know you, but people can't know you if you're an honest-to-goodness public interest servant. People can't get to know you until you're in the debate. Not only do they control the candidates, and they control the questions by picking the moderator who will kind of do their bidding, but they also control the audience. And the tickets to these televised debates are distributed to their own membership of the Democratic and Republican Party. So when you see people applauding for, more wars for oil, for more tax breaks for corporations, for the Trans-Pacific Partnership and these rigged trade agreements, they are not free trade agreements. They are rigged trade agreements. When people are applauding for those agreements, these are not everyday human beings. These are people who are a part of this rigged political system that most of us want to throw out. So we do have the power to do that. People are clamoring now for these other choices. And, there are two other candidates besides the, establishment, Hillary and Donald. There's Gary Johnson and myself. And, the Green Party and the Libertarian parties have some things in common, but that's particularly with the grassroots libertarians. However, there's another kind of libertarians called the corporate libertarians. And when you look at their agenda, if you look at Gary Johnson's agenda, it's kind of the corporate libertarian agenda, which is basically, if you wanted to sum it up, it is an agenda called Leave Me Alone. It's a society based on leave me alone. Why? So that corporations have free reign to just run riot all over us and rake in all the profits that they want. It's like, get government out of the way for corporations. So we will be the only campaign on the ballot that is not a member of the Billionaire Club or sponsored by the Billionaire Club. They can split the vote three ways. They are the ones who are going to split the vote. They can split the billionaire vote three ways. We have the vote of the 99%. And that's all we need. I'll just say one more thing about, we talked about schools a little bit. I want to be sure to just say a few words about immigration, because our campaign will fight very hard, not just a pathway for citizenship, to the immigrants who are the backbones of our economies, our communities, and our culture, but we call for a welcoming path to citizenship that celebrates the immigrants who are so core to our communities. Who are they kidding when they pretend that immigrants is anything different from what all of us are? It's with the exception of Native Americans, or with the exception of African Americans who were brought here without a choice, all of the rest of us immigrated to get here.
Yeah.
So that is the strength of this country, is our diversity and our immigrant heritage that we all bring to share in this melting pot of American culture. That is our strength. That is American exceptionalism. Our diversity is the only way in which we are exceptional. And the other thing about immigration is that if we really want to fix the immigration crisis, the most important thing that America can do is to stop causing it in the first place. We can end NAFTA. We can end NAFTA, renegotiate NAFTA. We need a fair trade agreement, not a rigged trade agreement that has put millions of farmers and factory workers out of business, not only in this country, but south of the border as well. So that's what's driving this wave of refugees. And we can also call a halt to the war on drugs, which is a war on black and brown people on both sides of the border. We can end that war on drugs by stopping. We have to stop pretending that this is a criminal problem. This is not a criminal problem. This is a public health issue, not a criminal issue. And we can legalize marijuana. This is something a president can do if she wanted right now or on the first day she is elected by telling the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, to do a very radical thing, which is to use science in determining which substances will be listed and which will not. Because the minute you apply science, you have to take marijuana off of that list, and you have to take hemp off of that list, and you create a whole new grassroots economy that creates jobs, not more jail. And we in fact can close down those jails because it's time to pardon everyone who has been wrongfully incarcerated for recreational or non-violent use of a substance that is inherently less dangerous than alcohol and tobacco. So we can solve that problem. And finally, the third thing we can do to stop causing the immigration crisis is to stop invading other countries. We don't need no bigger wall. We just have to stop invading other countries. Because, instead, where are these refugees coming from? The current wave of refugees into America are coming from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. What do those countries have in common? They all had democracies that were overthrown or undermined by either the CIA, by U.S.-trained death squads, or U.S. corporations and the military. We created that crisis. And I think I heard somebody say Hillary, because in fact Hillary gave the thumbs up to the corporate coup in Honduras that so many tens of thousands of people are fleeing for their lives from. It's time for the U.S. to stop recognizing. We need to withdraw recognition from the corporate coup government that currently reigns in Honduras and stop supporting their security and military departments. So we can fix that immigration crisis. There's really no crisis out there that we can't fix. And this all pays for itself and then some. So we really can have an America and a world that works for all of us. So it's really critical, as you know, for us to stand up and vote for what we want and what we deserve, not against what we fear. Because that politics of fear delivered everything we were afraid of. All those things. And when people tell me, when they say to me, oh, but I'm so afraid, it's worth a try. Many people, it's like talking to someone in an abusive relationship, and they're just not ready to leave it. So, it's like helping people leave a politically abusive relationship and help them get a life to realize they just have to walk away from these political abusers that they are making excuses for. It's time to stop making excuses for them and to really insist, that people look at the real record here. And the record is that politics of fear and the lesser evil thing, it delivered all those terrible things we were trying to avoid. And why is that? It's because democracy is not on autopilot. Democracy is not guided by what we are most afraid of or by who we fear the most. Democracy requires a moral compass. It requires our vision and our values to guide it forward. And we have to provide that moral vision. If we allow ourselves to be silenced and to let the lesser evil speak for us, we create a moral vacuum into which the corporate predators run. So that's why the only way out of this is through our votes and our values. And if you just look at the record, what you see, in fact, is that the lesser evil doesn't win in the end. It loses. And that's why we've been losing state house after state house and congressperson after congressperson and governor after governor. And both houses of Congress flipped from being blue to being red once we had a lesser evil Democrat in the White House, because the base does not come out to vote for a lesser evil politician that's throwing you under the bus, even if it's not as bad as it might be with the Republicans. People just don't come out to vote, so the Republicans win anyhow. So it is a fallacy. It is a lie. It is a propaganda campaign to tell you that the lesser evil is a solution. It is not a solution. It is a race to the bottom between the lesser and the greater evil. So we have no choice except to stand up and face the music. But the good thing is that when we do stand up and face the music, we have all the numbers we need. We have the solutions we need, and we actually have the power to win this election or a future election. When people say to me, so are you afraid of Donald Trump? Are you going to feel bad? Will you feel bad when Donald Trump gets elected? And I say, yes, I will feel terrible if Donald Trump gets elected. But yes, I will also feel terrible if Hillary Clinton gets elected. Because if you look at the record, in fact, the terrible things that Donald Trump says about immigrants, about deportations, Hillary and the Democrats are already doing. The Republicans are the party of hate and fear. The Democrats are the party of deportation, detention, and night raids, for God's sake. So that's not better than what Trump is talking about. The Democrats are actually doing it. Or on nuclear weapons. I don't want Trump's finger on the button, but I don't want Hillary's finger on the button. Hillary wants to start. She wants to start an air war over Syria with a so-called no-fly zone. A no-fly zone means we will be shooting down Russian aircraft. Okay? This is a nuclear-armed power. This is not a safe thing to do. This could spiral out of control real quick. So we are not safer with Hillary, given her track record for incredibly reckless and disastrous military invasions. We are not safer with Hillary than we might be with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a total wild card, and he changes his mind. And at least people would be standing up and fighting Donald Trump every step of the way. So we could actually fix this crisis with the stroke of a pen. We could fix the voting system with something called ranked choice voting. It's a no-brainer. You can rank your choices. And if your first choice loses, say you voted for an underdog, your vote is automatically reassigned to your second choice. So there is no unintended consequences of your vote. And it totally gets rid of the fear factor and lets us bring back our values to our democracy. Why don't we have this? The first time my campaign ran for governor, we worked with a progressive Democrat. We filed this legislation in the Massachusetts legislature, which is 85% Democratic. They could have prevented any fear of a spoiled election, any worry about that, they could have prevented. But they wouldn't let that bill out of committee, which tells you something. They rely on fear. They depend on fear. And why is that? Because they are not our friend. If they're not our friend and they rely on fear, they do not deserve our vote. And if you have friends and family out there that are really just all tied up in knots about this possibility of the vote being spoiled, tell them. Just direct all that anxiety towards their legislature to get them to pass the bill. They could do that right now. We could have ranked choice voting in 36 hours. It could be passed on an emergency basis in any legislature in any of the 50 states. There is a model bill that's already been created by fairvote.org, which is a great website. And that bill exists. We're already using this system in municipalities around the country and in countries around the globe. This is a proven great voting system for people who are worried about spoiling the vote. Let them focus their anxiety on actually fixing that problem. The fix is not to make a wounded democracy even more wounded by silencing the voices of political opposition. That is the very definition of a democracy. If you silence political opposition, you have tyranny. Instead of advocating for tyranny, let's all work together and let's just get ranked choice voting. And we'll fix it. So, bottom line is, this is the world we can create. The clock is ticking. On that day of reckoning, whether it's the climate, whether it's nuclear weapons, whether it's expanding war, we don't have forever to kick around here. We got to get started now if we're going to fix this climate crisis before we get that breakup of those ice sheets. So this is stuff we have to do. Don't be talked, and don't let your friends be talked into using their vote as a weapon against themselves, into being talked into powerlessness, when in fact we have the power. The bottom line is to forget the lesser evil, fight for the greater good, like our lives depend on it, because they do. We have the power to create an America and a world that works for all of us. The power to create that world is not just in our hopes, it's not just in our dreams. Right here and now, it's in our hands. We can make this happen together. Thank you so very much for being here. If you're making this better, you can do it. So, to make this happen, the first step, as you know, is getting on the ballot. How many are currently carrying petitions? All right, a good number. It turns out it's really easy and fun. And all you have to do is go up to someone and say, or actually they'll be coming up to you, and you got your clipboard, and you say, How would you like to get another choice on the ballot that is not Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
Yeah.
And usually people will say, yes, I will sign that. Or you go up to someone who is doesn't have my color hair, and they're probably carrying student debt, and you say to them, how would you like to get a candidate on the ballot who will cancel student debt?
Right.
Or how would you like to get a candidate on the ballot who will make college free? Or you talk to someone who looks like they might need a job, and you say, how would you like to get a candidate on the ballot that will create an emergency jobs program so that everyone has a good living wage job? And it's like giving out candy at Christmas. So it's easy to do. How many would consider carrying a petition? All right, great, awesome. Woo! Love it. All right. Because if every one of us would carry a petition, as Elston was saying, then we could all get like 50 signatures or 100 signatures. So it's a couple hours over the course of the next 3 weeks, is it? Couple hours over 3 weeks, you can get 50 or 100 signatures, and then we would have it made.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can do this together. Many hands make light work. Do you want to come up and just say a few words about how to do this? And also we can give you some contact information. If you had a chance to sign up when you came in, then we'll have your email and be sure that we notify you about how we do this, how you turn them in, etc. But let's welcome Elston back here to just give us a few words about how we're going to do this.
Beautiful job. Inspiring. I mean, she hit on every piston. I mean, woo! That's all I want for president, you all. Hey, guess what? I'm from home. I was here. You know, it reminds me of Nathan and Mark. But in this case, you had a blue pill, a red pill, or a green pill. I want the green pill. How about you? I want the green pill. I want the kill pill. Not the kill pill, but the kill pill. How about that? Yeah, that was some very liberating stuff. And I feel good about it. What I want you to do, a couple of things. I got a couple of things. On July the 6th, there's a Black and Green Wednesday, where the whole forum, it's just a forum that we put together, the Gateway Green Alliance and Universal African Peoples Organization. And the whole forum will be talking about ballot access. So that's Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Now, if you get there at 6 o'clock, you will meet all of the St. Louis area ballot access folk who are working on the team. We'll be turning in our petitions and getting them notarized. So that's going to be Wednesday at 6 o'clock. If we have your email, we'll shoot this out to you as well. Wednesday at 6 o'clock at Legacy Books and Cafe at 5249 Delmore. If anybody who's taking this down, you want to Google it so you get there, 63108. And that's going to be Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Now, the other thing you can do is see one of us. One of our coordinators come forward. Come on forward, you all. Come up here, guys. What's that? Come up here so folks can see who you are. If you're on the ballot access team right now, come on. Come on. If you get back in, come on. Taylor, come on, Taylor. Okay, Teresa. All right. Now we have a lot more folks that are collecting petitions. In fact, I would only imagine the reason we don't have 100 petitioners right here, right now, is because they're out collecting petitions right now. All right? And I'm a preacher, so I'm not making that up. This is more likely the case. I didn't say that. All right. So what we want to do, if you all see them, talk to them, get them your information. We'll have one-on-one conversations. You want to know more about it, we'll talk to you about it. But if we have your information, who all signed in when they came in, All right. Great. Great. So that we have majority of your information. If you don't have your information, you want to get on, want to sign up and join us, we need you. We need you. This is our last and final push. Jill is on the ballot in about 22, is it 22 states?
I think it's now like about 27.
27 states. 27 states. Right. 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 So we don't want to be behind, Missouri. We don't want to be left behind, right? And so we have to get this done. And we can get this done by talking to our family members, talking to our co-workers, and talking to our neighbors, and get them to sign that petition. Every Wednesday night, we're down the street here on Cherokee at the camp building. We can get you more information about that. So before we leave out of here, just make sure you check with one of us, and we can talk to you more about that. Now, who has not signed a petition and wants to sign a petition? Raise your hand. Fantastic. So you all see these folks, they'll let you sign a petition. If you live anywhere in the state of Missouri, you can sign a petition, and if you're a registered voter, and get Jill on the ballot. Let's give our petitioners a hand. I'm gonna bring what happened? Okay, you want to do a quick Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Let's give Dr. Stein a hand.
So real quick, we're gonna do a selfie, okay? Everybody?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Let's say you do it.
This is how we do it, okay? And then one with power this, okay?
All right, everybody. Yay!
And then one with the peace sign.
Peace sign. Yeah.
Peace and power, okay, good. So we'll do just a little bit of Q&A. It's late, but it's more fun if we've at least had a little bit of back and forth. So, so I see a woman back there. I see here two in front. All right, we'll start with those three. Yeah, go ahead.
Will you recognize the meat industry as a leading producer of methane and contributor?
Great. The question was, will our campaign recognize the contribution of the meat industry to methane and global warming? Absolutely. Industrial agriculture and particularly industrial confined animal feeding, abominations, so-called lots, are terrible on many counts. They are an exercise in incredible brutality and inhumanity, as well as producing food, which is not good for people when you confine animals like that in these industrial productions. They have to give them lots of antibiotics and other stuff, and they're kind of sick, and they feed them very unnatural things. So this food is not good for them, and it's not good for human beings, and it produces lots of carbon. It's very carbon intensive. So part of the Green New Deal that I didn't really go into was energy, and then transforming our food system so that we have a sustainable, relocalized, organic system of agriculture, which is good for people, good for animals, and good for the planet. And the third piece of the Green New Deal is actually public transportation that they don't have to go buy a car and feed it with, expensive insurance and all that. And to have safe sidewalks and bike paths so that we can actually have recreation and right to recreation as a form of transportation. We also call for restoring ecosystems as part of the infrastructure component of the Green New Deal. So this means jobs at all levels of education. You can become a farmer. You can restore ecosystems. do forest restoration, etc. The kinds of jobs you don't need a graduate degree for, you don't even need a high school degree for. We can get the jobs particularly into the communities that need them most with the highest levels of unemployment, which is, guess what, the black and brown communities across America that will be the first that are served by the Green New Deal. Thank you.
Find polls to respond to raise your numbers in the polls, and then also how do you get your attention to Washington State?
So say the first part again.
How do you find polls to respond to?
Okay.
And raise your numbers in the polls.
Yeah, great. Okay. So we are being included in a lot of the polls right now. You never know who they are going to call, but the more you can spread the word through every means that you have, especially social media. And our social media site is Dr. Jill Stein, and that's Dr. no period, Jill Stein. That's probably the best way to just get the word out there, especially among people who hold debt, student debt, because that's where the real, incredible incentive is to spread the word. And we are coming up in the polls over the course of the last month. Before we got any media coverage at all, we tripled our numbers in the polls, and we went from 2% up to 7% in the most recent CNN poll. So if we can keep that up, what we need to do now is basically double those numbers and get us up to 15%. We can get in. But the idea that you have to get to 15% is really not fair to start with. And the idea is that voters have a right not only to vote, but also to know who their choices are. So there are 2 additional choices that people don't know about. We're on the ballot right now. It may be 26 or 27 states, but we have about 20 more ballot drives that are going full speed ahead. We expect to be on the ballot for just about every voter. So voters deserve to know who their real choices are. And we are demanding that the debates be opened up to all 4 candidates who are on the ballot. In the last race, in the last election, Sherry Honkala, my running mate, and I were both arrested in Texas, and what happened really spoke volumes. I felt so honored by how terrified they were that word would get out that we were there. They took us to a dark site, a totally unlabeled site. Nobody knew where it was or what it was. Tightly handcuffed us, with these rigid plastic things, to metal chairs for about 7 hours. We were surrounded by Secret Service and Homeland Security and local police, a whole bunch of them, for just like my running mate and me, in this big warehouse. It was incredible. I felt so important. And there was one other person who was brought in, interestingly, and this was a journalist who was supposed to be at Chelsea Manning's trial the next day, reporting on that trial. And somehow they saw fit to arrest Chelsea Manning, a journalist covering that trial. And why did they arrest him? Because he was taking pictures of people who were taking pictures of him. So, it's like sort of the cloak and dagger thing going on. They hauled him in as well, too. And it was the 3 of us sitting in this humongous facility, surrounded by Secret Service and police. And, when they let us out, everybody had gone home. We didn't have telephones. We didn't have our cell phones. We didn't have money. Nobody knew where we were. We had to, go find someone out on the street to just borrow a phone from and call our staff to come and get us. We were it was November and we had no jackets, and it was really, really crazy, and it was just such a testimony to how terrified they are of our power if people actually find out that they have other choices. So the action is going to start early and often. So go to our website, jill2016.com, and sign up for the Open Debates campaign. because we're going to start well ahead of time, and it may be things like boycotts of the sponsors of the Commission on Presidential Debate. There are a whole lot of ways we can do this. We have 2 cases in court, but really this is going to get decided in the court of public opinion. So this is where public opinion is already on our side. It's all about standing up. So let's do that together. Be forewarned, it's going to start soon and it'll be a riot. Yeah.
I'm 16. Can I maybe ask for suggestions, or do you need to be a watcher voter?
Okay, great.
You actually have to be 18. You don't have to be a registered voter. You have to be 18 in order to get your petitions notarized. But I've got some other young folks you can help out. You can hang out with us and help us. So we'd love to have you work with us.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes, over here. Okay, and then there were a couple back there. Go ahead.
As I'm sure you know, there are, of course, many Bernie fans, Bernie supporters who are still rooting for Bernie, still hoping that the election that they believe has been stolen from him will get for the Democratic nomination. If that doesn't happen, is the offer that you made to Bernie still good to work with him within the Green Party?
Great. Okay, so the question is, does our offer still stand, inviting Bernie to run as a Green, and to explore with him how we can collaborate? So the deal on that is, I think it would be great to have Bernie running as a Green. I can't decide that myself. This requires a rules change. So Bernie would need to make the case before the Green Party convention for that rules change. If he really believed it, if really Bernie learned with this very bitter experience of having been sabotaged by the Democratic Party, if he has come to believe that we really do need independent politics, a politics of by and for the people, and that he has come to see the light, the green light in particular, he would make that case. And I have confidence that if he made that case, that he would be very likely to get the nomination, and I would be only too happy, to run with him in whatever capacity. I'm a physician, not a politician, and I don't particularly have a political career that I need to have one place or the other. My goal, is for us to survive. That's my goal. And Bernie will be a really powerful member of the team. But the longer he waits, the harder it will be to do. Because if we waited till after the Democratic convention, then it would be kind of blindsiding the party, and we wouldn't have time to really discuss this in advance, because our convention is just a few days after the Democratic convention. So that's the deal. If you have any way of talking to Bernie and telling him to, let's get with the program, because the Democrats weren't joking when they sabotaged him and when they sidelined him. Even in the platform committee, they've kind of shown their true colors. And their colors are not the color of the people. They've kind of made that case for us. And you can hold out hope against hope, but when Bernie's already said that he's going to vote for Hillary, it's just hard to hold out that hope for too much longer, which is why we didn't abandon our campaign. A lot of Greens re-registered in order to support Bernie, but we knew we had to hold the fort because there was never a doubt in my mind. I've just seen it too many times that the Democrats sabotage their campaigns of integrity, and they use them in a fake left kind of situation while the party keeps going right. They look left, but the party keeps coming more corporatist, more military, more imperialist over the years. And we kept entrusting them and saying, this time it's going to work. Remember, Obama was going to work, and then Bernie was going to work. This was really it this time. If we kind of gave into that, we wouldn't have a plan B that we really need now. And, that clock is ticking. We need to stand up and lead the way forward to a future we can survive in and a future we can thrive in. And that's going to be us together. It's a movement, not a man. And that movement, unfortunately, is not going to be supported in the Democratic Party. We've seen over and over. So I hope Bernie will come over, but if he doesn't, we got to go to that promised land. It's not enough to climb the mountain. We got to keep going. Okay. Yes, we will be at Philly, and we are going to have a power rally at Philly, a Power to the People rally, right after the March for Our Lives you may have heard about. The March for Our Lives of homeless, of poor people, of unemployed, who will be marching for their lives. The Democratic government of Philadelphia has refused to give them a permit, and they are going to march anyhow because it is too important. So come and march with us, and then come to our power rally, which is where we are going to save our lives. We do that together. Come to Philly, definitely. Thank you. Yes, in front.
Oh, I just want to know, what is it we need to do to get you on the ballot?
Great.
It's like 5% per state or...
So they make it as confusing as possible. And this is why we need to change that whole system. But the bottom line for Missouri is 5,000 signatures, is that?
10,000.
It's 10,000.
Right.
Okay.
August 1st.
10,000.
Once she is on the ballot, she needs to get 2% of a statewide vote was maintained what's called ballot stats.
So next time she'll...
Next time,
right.
Next time, we'll have to get petitions next time. Right.
That's right.
So when she comes up for re-election, she'll already be on the ballot.
Exactly. Thank you. And what you should know that we are fighting these ridiculous requirements, and we are getting them brought down. We just brought down the ballot requirement in Georgia from 50,000 signatures down to 7,500 in Georgia. We also just brought it down in Pennsylvania from 20,000 to 5,000 too. So we're fighting in every way that we can to restore our democracy. Thank you. Maybe one more question. Okay, over there. Yeah. Yeah.
An issue that I have is for-profit education centers, like, is it okay if I name one?
Sure.
ITT Tech. They charge 10 times the amount of money that a community college charges. When you factor in their charge for credit, and then the fact that they require double the credit hours to receive a degree. So when you multiply everything that they're typically interning, it's a 10 times the community college education. Then they don't provide even the quality of a community college education. So in addition to student debt, I really have problems with predatory for-profit schools.
Exactly. Great. Well said. And so the first thing that we can do, and that we have committed to doing, is making the public component free. And when you make the public component free, it becomes all the harder for the predatory institutions even to survive. Because if we're providing good quality and abundant, free public higher education, then people are not forced to go to the private institutions. So we can get them even without directly controlling their costs. They will be forced to bring down their costs. And we will agree to actually take on all of that debt. So everybody who's been entrapped into this predatory debt up until the time that we have free public higher education gets that debt canceled, regardless of where they have been, including the predatory private colleges. Great. Okay. I think we're going to stop there. I'm going to turn it back to Katie, and I just want to give you a big thank you. We are going to get on the ballot. We are going to turn the White House into a greenhouse, and take that in our future.
Thank you, everyone. We are, with our petitioners, we are going to head down to Fair St. Louis and start gathering signatures where the people are. So, if you have not gotten a petition, and Jill is going with us, so if you want to party with Jill at Fair St. Louis, come on with us. And if you want a petition and don't have a petition, go over and see the lovely lady in the green and brown. Or you can talk to Jonathan McFarland, or you can talk to Elson McCowan, and we will hook you up with a petition. And I want to thank all of you. We can do this. We can. Thank you all.
Volunteer for it? For volunteers? Volunteering?
Sure. So there, you have to have one separate for each county and municipality that they're in. So how many would you like?
Just four for out of town.
There you go. Anyone else want petitions to go out and sign? Awesome. So how many would you like? You need one for each municipality.
I want to find one of the positions.
One down for that.
What do you want to write out? I can find it. I get everything else.
Elton McCowan.
One guy's right up there.
Okay.
Hold on, Abraham.
Oh, I have no idea. It's a good sized crowd and a very diverse crowd.
You're fine to keep your stuff there.
I was like good to move, so do you need help with anything?
I'm not surprised.
Not right now. I mean, I'm sure we will. Abraham, leave that. Leave that.
If you see me, just holler, because my ride doesn't show for another hour. So.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be breaking down in the near future. I don't know how much they'll want us to put back. Probably all the folding chairs.
Yeah.
Hey, you be kind to Abraham. He wants to play with you. Come on, get down. Play with him.
Sure. Well, I can
You're a little stinker.
that. I'll
Sit down and play with your cousin.
So, you need to put the county, the municipality there, so it's not just one of every of the three. It makes it easier for the Secretary of State to just count them in that way. They need to be notified if you.
I know.
Yeah, you can hand them to him or else McCown. Watch out for super.
Abraham, stay right here. Stay right here.
Sure, awesome, thank you. That's pretty much it. You need to make sure that they sign the first one. And the last one, if you flip it, then it doesn't count.
Stop. I said don't touch
little
it.
technicalities like that. So how many would you like, being that you need
I said
one
don't
for each
touch it.
county? Yeah, and you can also find these on the Green Party's website as well. And you can print them up there.
Okay, I don't have a very good picture of that.
Well, thank you for helping out.
You're welcome. Stay right here. See that part? I'm right here. Are you on your daddy? Stein? Your daddy? Are you gonna put any of that up on YouTube? I streamed it. The whole event was just streamed. The link is on the Facebook event. Okay? Abraham, you want to cut this yet? Right there.
Nick, where's Jonathan?
I think, he was in the back. I'm not sure where he went.
Did you get the whole thing recorded?
Should have been. It was all streaming, and I'm hoping I was able to record it. YouTube will keep it for 12 hours. If you go on the Facebook event, are you on the Facebook event for this today? Did you sign up your email? You might be able to send out one via that one. Not 100% sure. This is the first time I've streamed an event, so.
Well, I just wanted to hear what she had to say. I heard her talk about it.
Right. Right. Lay right there. Okay. Lay your head on my shoulder. I gotta try and figure this out. Look, we're on camera. Say hi. Let's see if we got this. Oh God! I have to take a keep your hand there. That's not a problem.
You're going to see my name all over the place. We're going to go down to Thursday. All right. Right now. You want to be part of that?
I'm trying to figure out what to like. If it went through, if it, I mean, there was some delay, as you can see.
Yeah.
Just now catching up with us, yeah. Right. Now you're just a delay. I set it up to record, and then my camera kept, I had to switch the cards 3 times, so I don't know. Anyways, I'm doing okay. I gotta go back. I want to take them somewhere fun, even just to your house to play. Whenever we had Uncle Jonathan.
You want to come here while Mommy uses the restroom? No.
You look tired.
Abraham want to go to sleep.
Are you ready to go to bed? Oh, yeah. You want to go outside? Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
All right. I gotta. I need my now.
And then, if you want, you can my friend on Facebook and I'll add you.
Excellent.
Sorry about that.
So what's your name? How did you become your friend?
Alright, so I'm gonna grab my phone.
I'm just gonna go to the app. And I'm trying to figure this out and I can't figure anything out, girl.
I'll find you by any.
Okay. Who's that?
Are you interested in doing the petition?
Okay, so right. So let me give a brief refresher on how to do this. All right, so all of you guys. So this is how you do it. Okay. Every single state has to be its own county. Let's say I have St. Louis City and St. Louis County. I will write St. Louis City here. Write St. Louis County here.